My husband stole $22K from our bakery to fund his affair, so I took everything from him. My grandmother left me a duplex 3 blocks from the hospital where I work nights. It was the first time anyone in my family had owned property in the city, and for about 2 weeks, I got to pretend I was the kind of person who could just walk home after a 12-hour shift instead of spending 40 minutes on a bus that smelled like sweat and regret. I made the mistake of mentioning it to my coworker, Bryn Calloway, during a break. She hugged me so hard I thought my ribs would crack. "This is perfect," she said. "You can finally stop killing yourself on that commute." "I know," I said. "I'm still getting used to the idea." "We both can," she said. I blinked at her. "What?" "I mean, I'm stuck in that nightmare apartment 40 minutes the other direction. If I could crash with you a couple nights a week, we'd both actually sleep for once." She said it like it was already decided. Like the duplex wasn't mine, it was ours. I should have said no right then. I didn't. "Sure," I said, "a couple nights." Within a week, Bryn had a toothbrush in my bathroom and a drawer in my dresser. She showed up after her shifts with takeout and talked about how we were finally living like real adults. She called it our place. I told myself it was temporary, that she'd find her own spot soon, that this was just what friends did. Then she asked about her brother. "He's going through a rough patch," Bryn said one morning while we were both getting ready for work. "Lost his job, lease is up next month. He just needs a couple months to get back on his feet." I hesitated. "Bryn, I don't even know him. He's quiet, you won't even notice he's here. Please, he's got nowhere else to go." She looked at me like I was the only person in the world who could help, and I caved. 2 months, I said. That's it. Her brother, Kellen, moved in 3 days later with 2 duffel bags and a gaming setup that took over half my living room. Within a week, his girlfriend, Sienna, was there every night. Within 2 weeks, she'd moved her stuff in without asking. I came home from a double shift one Thursday and found 2 more people asleep on my living room floor. Strangers. Bryn's cousins, apparently, between leases. I stood in the doorway with my work bag still on my shoulder and stared at the pile of shoes by the door. At least 8 pairs. None of them mine. Bryn was in the Kit Foster making coffee. She smiled when she saw me. "Hey, you're home. I was just telling everyone how lucky we are to have this place." "Who are those people?" I asked. "My cousins. They're just crashing for a bit. Their landlord screwed them over." "Bryn, you didn't ask me." Her face crumpled. Tears welled up so fast I thought I'd imagined the smile. "I'm sorry," she said. "I thought you'd understand. You know how hard things have been for my family. We've never had anyone who just opened their door for us. No one's ever made us feel safe like this." She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. Kellen looked up from the couch. Sienna stood in the hallway with a towel wrapped around her hair. "I didn't mean to put you in a bad spot," Bryn said. "I just thought you were different. I thought you got it." I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. "It's only for a little while," she said. "I promise." I stood there in my grandmother's hallway, surrounded by bags and blankets and people I'd never met, and realized I'd lost control of my inheritance before I'd ever gotten the chance to live in it. I nodded. Bryn smiled again, and I went to my room and shut the door. I waited 2 days before I tried to bring it up. I found Bryn in the Kit Foster on a Saturday morning, scrolling through her phone while the coffee pot gurgled. "Hey," I said, "can we talk about the house situation?" She looked up. "What about it?" "I think we need to figure out some kind of plan. Like how long everyone's staying, and maybe splitting utilities or groceries." Her face shifted, not angry, wounded. "I knew this was coming," she said. "What? You're going to kick them out." "I'm not kicking anyone out. I'm just saying we need to talk about it. There are 5 people living here now." 6, she said. "Kellen's friend crashed last night. He's in a bad spot." I stared at her. "Bryn, I didn't even know about that. Because I knew you'd say no." She set her phone down. "Do you know what it's like to grow up the way we did? To never have a place that felt stable? We got evicted 4 times before I turned 12. 4 times. And every time, people we thought were friends just shut the door in our faces." "I'm not shutting any doors. I'm asking for basic communication. You're asking us to pay rent in the one place we finally feel safe. I'm asking for help with bills. The water bill tripled last month. The electric is insane. I'm covering property taxes on my own." She wiped her eyes. She wasn't crying yet, but she was close. "I get it," she said. "You inherited this place, so it's yours, and we're just charity cases taking advantage of you." "That's not what I said, but it's what you meant." I didn't know how to argue with that. She stood up, grabbed her coffee, and walked out of the Kit Foster. I heard her bedroom door close. I stood there staring at the counter, at the pile of dishes that weren't mine, at the grocery list stuck to the fridge in someone else's handwriting. Kellen came downstairs an hour later and made himself breakfast. He used the last 4 eggs, the rest of the bread, and half a block of cheese I'd bought 2 days ago. He didn't ask. He didn't replace anything. Sienna rearranged the living room that afternoon. She moved my grandmother's bookshelf into the corner and pushed the couch against the wall to make space for a yoga mat and a ring light. When I came out of my room and saw it, she smiled at me. "Doesn't this open up the space so much better?" she said. I liked it the way it was. "Oh," she looked confused. "I thought you'd be happy. Bryn said you wanted the place to feel more modern." "I never said that." "Well, it looks great now. You'll get used to it." She turned back to her phone and started filming herself doing stretches. I walked back to my room. That night, I couldn't find my shampoo. I checked the bathroom cabinet, the shower, under the sink. Gone. I found it in Sienna's bag on the floor of Bryn's room, half empty. Monday at work, one of the other nurses asked me how the new living situation was going. "It's fine," I said. "Bryn told us what you're doing for her family. That's really generous." I looked at her. "She told you?" "She mentioned it during rounds. She said you opened your home to people who didn't have anywhere else to go. That's incredible." Another coworker overheard and jumped in. "I heard about that. You're basically running a shelter. That takes a huge heart." I smiled. I didn't know what else to do. Bryn caught me in the break room later. People have been so sweet about what you're doing, she said. It makes me so proud to work with someone like you. You told people, I said. Of course, why wouldn't I? You're doing something amazing. I didn't want it to be a whole thing. Why not? You should be proud. She squeezed my arm and walked out. I sat there with my lunch and realized she'd locked me in. If I asked them to leave now, I wouldn't just be kicking out a coworker's family. I'd be the person who pretended to care and then changed her mind. The person who made a big show of generosity and then pulled it back. I went home that night and found Kellen's friend on my couch. He introduced himself as Troy. He didn't say when he was leaving. The cousins were still on the living room floor. They'd been there for a week. Their sleeping bags were starting to smell. Bryn was making dinner. She'd used my groceries again. When I walked into the Kit Foster, she looked up and smiled. Hey, I'm making pasta for everyone. You want some? That was supposed to be for my lunches this week. I'll replace it. You said that last time? Her smile faded. Are you seriously going to make this about groceries right now? After everything? I'm just saying I need to plan my meals. Then plan better. She turned back to the stove. I stood there for a second, then went to my room. I heard them all eating together in the living room an hour later, laughing, talking about their days, like this was their home. I pulled up my bank account on my phone. The property tax bill was due in 2 weeks. The utilities were already past what I'd budgeted. My savings were shrinking. I thought about my grandmother, about how she'd worked her entire life to own something, about how she'd wanted me to have it. I closed my phone and lay down on my bed and stared at the ceiling. I didn't know how to fix this. The next week, Kellen knocked on my bedroom door at 2 in the afternoon. I'd just gotten home from a night shift. I'd been asleep for maybe 40 minutes. Hey, he said through the door. Can you keep it down in there? I opened the door. He was standing in the hallway in sweatpants and a hoodie, holding his phone. I'm sleeping, I said. I know, but you were moving around a lot. I'm trying to work. You work nights. I stream during the day now. It's when I get the most viewers. I stared at him. You want me to be quiet in my own bedroom so you can stream video games in my living room? I'm just asking for a little consideration. The mic picks up everything. He walked away before I could answer. I closed the door and sat on the edge of my bed. My hands were shaking. I didn't go back to sleep. That afternoon, Sienna left a list on the Kit Foster counter. It was written on the back of one of my grocery receipts. The list said oat milk, gluten-free bread, organic spinach, almond butter, and coconut yogurt. At the bottom, she'd drawn a little heart and written, thanks. I crumpled it up and threw it away. Bryn found it in the trash that night. Why would you throw this away? She asked. Because I'm not buying groceries for 6 people. Sienna has dietary restrictions. She can't just eat anything. Then Sienna can buy her own groceries. Bryn's face went hard. She's struggling right now. Kellen's supporting both of them on what he makes streaming. You know how precarious that income is. Then maybe she should get a job. She's looking. It's not that easy. Bryn, I'm not running a grocery store. No, you're running a home. Or you're supposed to be. She walked out. I heard her talking to Kellen in the living room, her voice low and angry. I couldn't make out the words, but I heard my name twice. I went to my room and locked the door. The electric bill came 3 days later. $218. It was usually $70. The water bill came the next day. $143. It was usually $40. I sat at my Kit Foster table with both bills in front of me and added up the numbers in my head. Between utilities, property taxes, and insurance, I was spending almost $1,500 a month to maintain a house I barely lived in. I found Bryn folding laundry in the living room that evening. Her laundry. She'd taken over the washer and dryer completely. I hadn't been able to do my own clothes in a week. We need to talk about bills, I said. She didn't look up. Okay. The electric bill is triple what it usually is. The water bill is insane. I can't keep covering everything on my own. What do you want me to do about it? I want everyone to chip in, even just a little. $50 a month per person would help. She set down the shirt she was folding. $50 a month. Yeah. You want my brother, who just lost his job and is trying to build a new income stream, to pay you $50 a month to live in a house you inherited for free. I didn't inherit it for free. I'm paying property taxes, I'm paying insurance, I'm paying to keep the lights on for 6 people. You're paying to keep a roof over people's heads. That's what good people do. I'm asking for help, Bryn. That's it. She stood up. Kellen is saving for a deposit on a new place. Every dollar he makes is going toward that. If you take $50 a month from him, you're making it that much harder for him to leave. Is that what you want? To trap him here? That's not what I'm doing. Then what are you doing? Because it sounds like you're nitpicking over money when you have an entire property handed to you. My grandmother worked her whole life for this. And you got it for nothing. We're the ones actually struggling. I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. She picked up her laundry basket and walked past me. I thought you were different, she said. I really did. I sat down on the couch. Troy was asleep in the recliner with his mouth open. One of the cousins was on the floor watching something on her phone with the volume cranked up. I went to my room and closed the door. At work the next week, I overheard Bryn talking to 2 other nurses in the break room. I don't know what we would have done without her, she was saying. Housing insecurity is so traumatic. My brother was sleeping in his car before this. Now he's actually building something. That's amazing, one of the nurses said. She's incredible, Bryn said. I keep telling her that. She doesn't even realize how much of a difference she's making. I stood outside the door and listened. My stomach twisted. Another nurse I barely knew stopped me in the hallway later that day. I heard what you're doing, she said. That's really beautiful. We need more people like you. I smiled. Thanks. I went to the bathroom and locked myself in a stall and sat there with my head in my hands. My parents showed up unannounced on a Saturday afternoon. My mom had texted that morning saying they were in the city and wanted to see the place. I'd forgotten to respond. I wasn't home when they arrived. I was at the grocery store spending another $150 on food I knew wouldn't last the week. When I got back, my dad's car was in the driveway. I walked inside and found my mom standing in the living room, staring at the cousins on the floor. One of them was asleep. The other was eating cereal and watching videos on her phone. Kellen was at his setup, headphones on, yelling into his mic. Sienna was in the Kit Foster blending something that smelled like protein powder and bananas. Troy waved at me from the couch. "Hey, your parents are here." My dad was in the hallway looking at the guest room. The door was open. There were clothes everywhere, a suitcase on the bed, someone's shoes on the floor. "Whose room is this?" he asked. "It's temporary," I said. My mom came up behind me. "How many people are living here?" "It's complicated." "How many?" "6, counting me." She looked at my dad. He shook his head. "Can we talk outside?" my mom said. We went out to the front porch. My dad stayed inside. My mom folded her arms. "What is happening in there?" "They needed help. And now they're living in your house for free." "It's not that simple." "It looks pretty simple to me. You inherited this property, and now you're letting strangers take it over." "They're not strangers. Bryn is my coworker." "And the rest of them?" I didn't answer. "Your grandmother wanted you to have this," my mom said. "She wanted you to have something stable, something that was yours. She didn't work her whole life so you could turn it into a halfway house." "I'm trying to help people. You're being taken advantage of. You don't understand." "I understand perfectly. You're too kind, and they know it, and they're using it against you." I looked away. My throat was tight. "You need to set boundaries," she said. "You need to tell them to leave." "I can't." "Why not?" "Because Bryn will hate me. Everyone at work will think I'm horrible. I'll be the person who pretended to care and then kicked them out. You'll be the person who stood up for yourself." "It's not that easy." My mom put her hand on my arm. "Yes, it is. You just don't want to do it." I pulled away. "I have to go back inside." She watched me walk to the door. I didn't look back. When I came in, my dad was talking to Bryn in the Kit Foster. She was crying. He looked at me, then looked away. They left 10 minutes later. My mom hugged me at the door. "Call me when you're ready," she said. I nodded. I watched them drive away, then went inside and locked myself in my room. Bryn knocked an hour later. "Your parents seem nice," she said through the door. I didn't answer. "I told your dad how grateful we are. I think he really got it." I lay on my bed and stared at the ceiling and listened to her walk away. I came home from work on a Tuesday night and found 12 people in my living room. There were voices coming from inside before I even opened the door. Music. Laughter. The kind of noise that made the walls vibrate. I walked in and stopped. People I'd never seen before were sitting on my couch, leaning against my walls, standing in clusters with drinks in their hands. Someone had pushed the coffee table against the window to make room. My grandmother's quilt was bunched up in the corner like a drop cloth. Bryn was in the Kit Foster with Sienna, pulling chips out of my cabinet. "Hey," she said when she saw me. "You're home early. What is this?" "Just a little get-together. Kellen's friends wanted to meet everyone." "You didn't ask me." "I didn't think I had to. It's just a few people. There are 12 people in my living room. Closer to 15, actually. A couple more are coming." I looked at the crowd, at the beer bottles on my grandmother's side table, at the person I didn't know sitting in my chair, scrolling through their phone like they lived here. "Bryn, this is my house." Her face changed. "Our house? You said we were all in this together." "I never said that." "You didn't have to. You opened your door. That means something." One of Kellen's friends walked past me with a slice of pizza. My pizza. From the box I'd bought on the way home and left on the counter while I went to change. "I need to talk to you," I said. "Can it wait? I'm hosting." "No." She sighed and followed me into the hallway. I could still hear the music. Someone turned it up. "What?" she said. "You can't just throw parties here without asking me." "It's not a party, it's a gathering." Kellen needed to network. He's trying to build his platform. "I don't care what he's trying to build. This is my house." "And you're making that very clear." Her voice was sharp now. "Do you know how it feels to finally have a space where people can come together and then have someone stand there reminding you it's not really yours?" "Because it's not." She stared at me. "Wow." "Bryn, no, I get it. You own the place. We're just the charity cases crashing here. I'll make sure everyone knows." She walked back into the Kit Foster. I heard her say something to Sienna, too quiet for me to catch. Sienna glanced at me and shook her head. I went to my room and locked the door. The music didn't stop until after midnight. At work, 2 days later, I overheard Bryn talking to another nurse near the med cart. "Kellen's probably staying through the spring," she was saying. "Rent prices are insane right now. It doesn't make sense for him to move until the market calms down." I froze. The other nurse nodded. "That's smart. Why pay inflated rent when he's got a stable place?" "Exactly. And honestly, it's good for both of us. She gets help around the house, we get a roof, it works." I walked up to the cart. "Can I talk to you?" Bryn looked at me. "I'm in the middle of something. It'll just take a second." She excused herself and followed me into the break room. I closed the door. "Spring?" I said. "What?" "You just told her Kellen's staying through the spring." "Yeah, so?" "You said 2 months. It's been almost 3 already." "Plans change. You know how expensive rent is right now." "That's not my problem." She tilted her head. "Isn't it? I thought we were friends. I thought you cared about what happened to us." "I do care. That's why I let you stay in the first place." "Let us stay. Like we're dogs you're letting sleep on the porch." "That's not what I meant, but it's how it sounds." The door opened. Another nurse, Monica, stuck her head in. "Everything okay?" "Fine," Bryn said. She looked at me. "We're fine." Monica stepped inside anyway. I couldn't help but overhear a little. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine," I said. "She's stressed," Bryn said. "She's been dealing with a lot." "I'm standing right here." Monica looked between us. I just think it's amazing what you're doing, helping people who don't have anywhere else to go. That's really generous. It's temporary, I said. Of course, Monica said. But still, not everyone would open their home like that. Bryn smiled, soft, grateful, like I'd just done something beautiful. She's been incredible, Bryn said. Monica squeezed my shoulder and left. I looked at Bryn, she was still smiling. What are you doing? I asked. What do you mean? You're telling everyone I'm some kind of saint. You're making it impossible for me to ask you to leave. I'm not making you do anything, I'm just telling the truth. You did open your home, people respect that. Stop. Stop what? Using me. Her smile faded. I'm not using you, I'm appreciating you. There's a difference. She walked out. I stood there with my hands clenched and my heart pounding and no idea what to do next. My mom called that night while I was sitting in my car in the hospital parking lot. I didn't want to go home yet. How's the house? She asked. It's fine. How many people are there now? Still 6. Are they paying you anything? No. She was quiet for a second. Your father and I have been talking. About what? About the property taxes. We've been helping you cover them while you get settled, but we didn't agree to subsidize a house full of strangers. I know. We can't keep doing this, not if nothing's changing. I'm working on it. Are you? Because from where we're sitting, it looks like you're letting them walk all over you. It's complicated. It's not complicated. You tell them to leave, that's it. And if they don't, then you evict them. I closed my eyes. I can't afford that. You can't afford not to. You're hemorrhaging money every month. Your grandmother didn't leave you this place so you could give it away. I'm not giving it away. Then what are you doing? I didn't answer. We'll cover this month's taxes, she said. But that's it. After that, you're on your own unless you do something. She hung up. I sat in my car and looked at the hospital entrance. I thought about going back inside, picking up an extra shift, staying away from the duplex as long as I could. I drove home instead. When I got there, I pulled up tenant law websites on my phone. I sat in my car in the driveway and read about eviction procedures and timelines and filing fees. Everything I read made my chest tighter. 30 days minimum notice, court filings, sheriff enforcement, legal fees if they contested it, months of process if they didn't leave voluntarily. I looked up at the house. The lights were on in every room. I went inside. Bryn was in the Kit Foster on the phone. She saw me and turned away, lowering her voice. I went to my room and called a legal hotline. I kept my voice down, but the walls were thin. The woman on the line explained the process. She used words like tenant rights, an unlawful detainer, and formal notice. She said it could take 90 days or more if they fought it. Even though they're not paying rent? I asked. Even then, they've established residency. You'll need to go through the court. I thanked her and hung up. When I came out of my room, Bryn was standing in the hallway. Legal hotline, she said. I was just asking questions. About evicting us. About my options. Your options? She laughed. It didn't sound like a laugh. So that's where we are now. You're looking into how to throw us out. I didn't say that. You didn't have to, I heard you. Bryn, I thought we were friends. I thought you actually cared. But this whole time, you've just been waiting for an excuse to get rid of us. That's not true. Then what is true? Because from where I'm standing, you just called a lawyer to figure out how to kick my family onto the street. I called a hotline, I asked questions, that's it. That's it. She shook her head. You know what? Fine. Now I know where I stand. Now we all know. She walked past me into the living room. I heard her talking to Kellen, her voice low and angry. I went back to my room and locked the door. No one spoke to me the rest of the night. When I came out to get water, the living room went silent. Sienna looked at me and looked away. Troy got up and left the room. I filled my glass and went back to my room. I sat on my bed and opened my bank account on my phone. My savings were down to $1,800. The next property tax bill was due in 2 weeks. I looked at the door. I could hear them talking on the other side. About me. I put my phone down and lay back and stared at the ceiling. I didn't know how this ended, but I knew it was going to end badly. I spent the next 3 days drafting an agreement on my laptop. I kept it simple. 1 page. Move-out dates for each person, staggered over 60 days so no one had to scramble. A request for $50 per person per month toward utilities until they left. A line at the bottom for signatures. I read it over 20 times. I took out anything that sounded harsh. I added a paragraph at the top thanking them for understanding and acknowledging how hard the housing market was right now. I wanted it to sound reasonable. Friendly, even. I printed it on a Thursday morning before my shift. My hands were shaking when I folded it and put it in my bag. I found Bryn in the break room that afternoon. She was alone, scrolling through her phone with a protein bar half unwrapped on the table. Can we talk? I said. She didn't look up. About what? The house. I wrote something up, just to make things clearer for everyone. She set her phone down. What kind of something? I pulled the paper out of my bag and unfolded it. It's just an agreement. Move-out dates, a small contribution to bills. Nothing crazy. I thought it would help everyone plan. She stared at the paper. She didn't take it. You wrote up a contract. It's not a contract. It's just an agreement. So we're all on the same page. You want us to sign something. I want us to have a plan. That's it. She picked up the paper. Her eyes moved over the first few lines. Then she set it back down and pushed it toward me. No? Bryn, I'm not signing that. Why not? Because signing something like this makes me a tenant. It makes you a landlord. It turns this whole thing into a transaction. It's already a transaction. You're living in my house. I thought I was living with a friend. You are. That's why I'm asking instead of just telling you to leave. She stood up. If you were really my friend, you wouldn't be handing me eviction papers in the break room. These aren't eviction papers. It's a move-out timeline. There's a difference. Not to me. She walked out. I sat there with the paper on the table and my bag still on my shoulder. I folded the paper back up and went to finish my shift. That night, I tried again. I found Kellen in the living room, headphones around his neck, staring at his monitor. His stream was offline. The room was quiet except for the hum of his computer. "Hey," I said, "can I talk to you for a second?" He glanced at me. "About what?" I held up the paper. I put together a plan. For everyone. Move out dates, some help with bills. I thought it would make things easier. He took the paper. He read it slowly. When he got to the part about the $50 monthly contribution, he laughed. "You're serious? It's not a lot. It's just to help cover utilities. You want me to pay you to live here? I want everyone to contribute a little. That's it." He handed the paper back. "I'm not signing this." "Why not?" "Because it's messed up. You inherited this place. You didn't work for it. You didn't save for it. Your grandmother died and you got a house. And now you're nickel and diming people who are actually struggling." "I'm not nickel and diming anyone. I'm asking for help. You're asking us to subsidize your free property. It's not free. I pay taxes. I pay insurance. I pay to keep the water and lights on for 6 people. And we're supposed to feel bad for you? You own a duplex in the city? Do you know how lucky you are?" I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. "Bryn told me you were different," he said. "She said you actually cared about people. But this?" He gestured at the paper. "This is landlord garbage." He turned back to his monitor and put his headphones on. I stood there for a second, then went to my room. Sienna knocked on my door an hour later. I didn't answer. She knocked again. "I know you're in there," she said. I opened the door. She was holding her phone. "I just want to say I think this is really unfair," she said. "What is?" "Springing this on everyone. Kellen's been working so hard to build his platform. He's finally getting traction, and now you're threatening to kick him out right when things are starting to turn around." "I'm not threatening anyone. I'm asking for a plan. A plan that forces him to leave in 2 months. Do you know how hard it is to find a place right now? He's had 3 months to look. He's been busy trying to make money so he can afford to leave. And every time he gets close, something like this happens." "Something like what?" "Someone reminding him he's not wanted." She walked away before I could answer. I closed the door and sat on my bed. My phone buzzed. A text from my mom. "Did you talk to them?" I typed back, "Yes." "And? They won't sign it." She called me 10 seconds later. "What do you mean they won't sign it?" she said. "They said it makes them feel like tenants, like I'm evicting them." "You are evicting them. That's the point." "I'm trying to do it nicely." "There's no nice way to do this. They're not going to leave on their own. You need to make them leave. I can't just throw them out." "Yes, you can. That's what eviction is." "I don't want to go to court." "Then you're going to keep living like this. Is that what you want?" I didn't answer. "Your father and I talked," she said. "We'll pay for a lawyer, someone who can send them a formal notice. 30 days, then filing. You don't have to do it yourself. I can't afford a lawyer. We'll cover it. But you have to actually go through with it. No more asking nicely. No more agreements. You tell them they have 30 days, and if they're not out, you file. Bryn will hate me. Bryn is using you. She's been using you from the start. And the longer you let this go on, the worse it's going to get." I closed my eyes. "I don't know." "You do know. You're just scared to do it." "I'm not scared." "Then prove it. Call the lawyer. Send the notice. Take your house back." She hung up. I sat there with my phone in my lap. I pulled up the legal hotline website again. I stared at the number. I didn't call. I went to work the next day and Bryn wasn't there. She'd called in sick, Monica told me during rounds. "She sounded really upset," Monica said. "Is everything okay with you two?" "It's fine." "Are you sure?" Because she mentioned something about feeling unsafe in her living situation. I stopped walking. She said what? "She said things have been tense at home. She didn't go into detail. I just wanted to check on you." "I'm fine." Monica looked at me like she didn't believe me. "If you need to talk, I'm here." I nodded and walked away. I checked my phone at lunch. Sienna had posted something on social media. I didn't follow her, but someone had screenshotted it and sent it to the group chat at work. The post said, "It's wild how people will act like they care about you until you actually need something. Power corrupts everyone eventually." There was a photo attached. Not of me, not of the house, just a generic shot of a closed door. The comments were full of people I didn't know saying things like, "You deserve better," and "Fake people always show their true colors." I put my phone down and stared at the break room wall. When I got home that night, no one was in the living room. The lights were off. The house was silent. I stood in the doorway and listened. I heard voices upstairs, Bryn's room, all of them in there, talking low. I went to my room and locked the door. I sat on my bed and opened my contacts. I scrolled to the lawyer my mom had mentioned, a family friend who did tenant law. I stared at the number. I thought about my grandmother, about the duplex, about the life I was supposed to be building here. I thought about Bryn in the break room, refusing to even read the agreement, about Kellen calling me a landlord like it was an insult, about Sienna posting about fake friends while living in my house for free. I thought about my mom's voice on the phone. "Take your house back." I pressed the number. A man answered on the third ring. "Law offices." "Hi," I said. "My name is..." I stopped. My throat was tight. I swallowed and started again. "I need help evicting someone." "Okay," he said. "Tell me what's going on." I told him. When I finished, he was quiet for a second. "How long have they been there?" he asked. 3 months, almost 4. "And they're not paying rent?" "No." "Do you have anything in writing?" I tried to get them to sign an agreement. They refused. "That's fine. We can work with that. I'll draft a 30-day notice. If they don't leave, we'll file an unlawful detainer. It'll take a couple months, but you'll get your property back." "A couple months? Maybe longer if they contest it. But yeah, that's the timeline." I closed my eyes. "Okay. I'll send the paperwork over tomorrow. You'll need to serve it in person or have someone else do it. Do you want me to arrange that?" "I'll do it." "You sure?" "Yeah." "All right, I'll email you by noon." I thanked him and hung up. I sat there on my bed with my phone in my hand and my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. I just hired a lawyer to evict my coworker, my friend. I lay back and stared at the ceiling. There was no going back now. The email from the lawyer arrived at 11 the next morning. I was sitting in my car in the hospital parking lot staring at my phone when the notification popped up. Subject line, notice to vacate, template, and instructions. I opened it. The attachment was a single-page document. Clean. Professional. It laid out the timeline in plain language. 60 days to vacate the property. No exceptions. A paragraph at the bottom explaining that failure to comply would result in legal action. I read it 3 times. Then I forwarded it to the printer at a copy shop 2 blocks from my apartment and drove there on my lunch break. The woman behind the counter handed me the pages without looking at them. I paid in cash. I folded them into my bag and drove back to work. I didn't go inside. I sat in my car and pulled the papers out again. I stared at the first line. To the occupants of, my hands were shaking. I put the papers back in my bag and went inside. Bryn was at the nurse's station when I walked past. She didn't look at me. I didn't look at her. I finished my shift. I drove home. I parked in the driveway and sat there with the engine off and the papers in my lap. The lights were on inside. I could see shadows moving past the windows. I got out of the car. I walked to the door. I unlocked it and stepped inside. Everyone was in the living room. Bryn, Kellen, Sienna, Troy, the 2 cousins, all of them sitting there like they were waiting for me. Bryn stood up. We need to talk. Okay, I said. We've been talking and we think you owe us an apology. I stared at her. For what? For the way you've been treating us. For making us feel like we're not welcome. For trying to force us out with that agreement. I wasn't forcing anyone. I was asking for a plan. You were giving us an ultimatum. There's a difference. I reached into my bag. I pulled out the papers. I unfolded them and held them out. This is the plan, I said. Bryn took the papers. Her eyes moved over the first few lines. Her face went white. You're evicting us. I'm giving you 60 days to find somewhere else to live. You can't do this. I already did. Kellen stood up. We have rights. You can't just kick us out. You're not tenants. You never paid rent. You never signed a lease. You're guests. And I'm asking you to leave. We've been here for months. That makes us tenants. Talk to a lawyer if you want, but you have 60 days. After that, I'm filing in court. Sienna was crying. This is insane. We have nowhere to go. You've had 3 months to figure that out. We've been trying. Do you know how expensive everything is right now? That's not my problem. Bryn's face twisted. Not your problem. Listen to yourself. You sound like every heartless landlord who's ever thrown someone onto the street. I sound like someone who's tired of being taken advantage of. Taken advantage of? We've been living here because you offered. You said we could stay. I said Bryn could crash a couple nights a week. I said Kellen could stay for 2 months. I never said yes to any of this. You never said no. I'm saying it now. She threw the papers at me. They hit my chest and fell to the floor. You're a horrible person, she said. I thought you were different. I thought you actually cared about people. But you're just like everyone else. The second it gets inconvenient, you bail. I bent down and picked up the papers. I folded them and set them on the coffee table. 60 days, I said, starting today. I walked to my room and locked the door. I heard them talking on the other side. Bryn's voice was the loudest. I couldn't make out the words, but I heard my name over and over. I sat on my bed and put my head in my hands. My phone buzzed, a text from my mom. Did you do it? I typed back, yes. Good, don't back down. I didn't respond. At work 2 days later, Monica pulled me aside before rounds. Can we talk? She said. About what? Bryn came to me yesterday. She's upset. She said things at home have gotten really bad. Okay. She said you're evicting her family. Is that true? I gave them 60 days to find another place. They've been living there for free for almost 4 months. Monica's face shifted. Free? They never paid rent. They never helped with bills. I've been covering everything. Bryn didn't mention that. I'm sure she didn't. Monica was quiet for a second. She made it sound like you were kicking them out with no warning. I tried to work it out. I asked them to sign an agreement. They refused. So I went to a lawyer. How long have they been there? Since January. And they haven't contributed anything? Nothing. Monica nodded slowly. That's not what she told me. I know. She's been telling people you're using your inheritance to control them. That you're making them feel unsafe. I'm not making anyone feel unsafe. I'm asking them to leave my house. Monica looked at me. I believe you. You do? Yeah. I've worked with Bryn for 2 years. She's great at her job, but she has a way of making herself the victim in every situation. I've seen it before. I didn't know what to say. Keep your head down, Monica said. Don't engage with the drama, and if she tries to make this a work issue, come to me. Okay. She squeezed my arm and walked away. I went to the break room and sat down with my lunch. My hands were still shaking. Bryn avoided me for the next week. When we passed each other in the hall, she looked through me like I wasn't there. When we were both assigned to the same patient, she only spoke to me when absolutely necessary. Her voice was flat, professional, cold. Other nurses started looking at me differently. I'd catch them whispering in the break room and stopping when I walked in. One of them asked me if everything was okay at home. I said yes and left. At the duplex, the tension was unbearable. No one spoke to me. When I came home, they'd go quiet. When I walked into a room, they'd leave. Kellen started packing 2 weeks after I served the notice. He didn't say a word to me, but I'd see boxes stacked in the hallway. Sienna's things started disappearing from the bathroom. The cousins left first. I came home one afternoon and their sleeping bags were gone. No goodbye. No note. Troy left a few days later. He knocked on my door before he went. Thanks for letting me crash, he said. I nodded. He left. 3 weeks in, Bryn finally spoke to me. I was in the Kit Foster making coffee when she walked in. Kellen found a place. she said. He's moving out this weekend. Okay, I'm going with him. Okay. I put in my notice at work. My last day is the 15th. I looked at her. You're quitting? I can't work with you anymore. Every time I see you, I remember what you did to my family. I didn't do anything to your family. I asked them to leave my house. You threw us out. I gave you 60 days. You gave us an impossible situation. Do you know how hard it is to find a place in 2 months? Do you know how much deposits cost? You've had almost 4 months. You could have been looking this whole time. Her face went red. We were trying to save money. We were trying to get stable. And you ruined that. I didn't ruin anything. You did this to yourself. She stared at me. I hope you're happy. I hope this house was worth losing everyone who cared about you. She walked out. I stood there with my coffee cup in my hand and my chest so tight I could barely breathe. Kellen and Sienna moved out the following Saturday. I stayed in my room while they loaded their things into a truck. I heard them making trips up and down the stairs. I heard Bryn's voice giving directions. When the truck pulled away, I came out. The living room was a disaster. The couch was stained. The coffee table had a crack down the middle. My grandmother's quilt was gone. The bookshelf was shoved into the corner with 2 shelves broken. I walked through the house. Every room had something wrong. Scuff marks on the walls, a broken drawer in the Kit Foster, a burn mark on the bathroom counter, a hole in the drywall in the guest room where someone had punched it. I sat down on the couch and looked around. The place smelled like other people, like strangers. I pulled out my phone and called a cleaning service. Then I called a handyman. I made a list of everything that needed to be fixed. The total came to almost $800. I paid it. Bryn's last day at work was a Friday. I wasn't on shift, but Monica texted me that afternoon. She left, didn't say goodbye to anyone, just turned in her badge and walked out. I stared at the text. I didn't know what to feel. Thanks for telling me, I typed back. You doing okay? Monica asked. I think so. Good, you did the right thing. I put my phone down. The house was empty when I got home that night. Completely empty. No voices, no music, no one in the Kit Foster or on the couch or asleep on the floor. I walked through every room. I stood in the living room and listened to the silence. It felt wrong, not peaceful, just hollow. I sat down on the couch. The same couch my grandmother used to sit on when I visited her as a kid. The one she'd read to me on. The one she'd fallen asleep on watching old movies. I thought about her. About the duplex. About how she'd worked her whole life to own something. About how she'd wanted me to have it. I thought about Bryn. About the way she'd hugged me when I first told her about the inheritance. About the way she'd smiled and said we instead of you. I thought about my savings account. About the legal fees and the repair costs and the months of covering bills for 6 people. About how my fresh start had cost me almost everything I'd saved. I looked around the empty living room. At the broken bookshelf. At the stained couch. At the walls that needed repainting. I'd won. I had my house back. It didn't feel like winning.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and drop your favorite part in the comments. See you in the next one.